Okay, so I know we've reviewed the first game. We've also done the second game. Crazy, right? That's like 2 out of 3 of the games. There is one missing though. It feels like there's just one, you know? There's one in the 3 that we're missing. I think it's Crash Bandicoot Warped. So yeah, I'm gonna be very happy to do this review because this is my favorite Crash game in the trilogy, and I guess for the most part, my favorite Crash Bandicoot game in general, maybe aside from the fourth one. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the game, because I really want to talk about this one. Now, a lot of it's not going to be too different from what I said about 2, but there's, different things within it that I want to mention as well. So, without further ado, let's get on with the review. So basically, the game starts with the space station that you blew up in the second game, basically floating down to Earth. That's when the plotline of this game starts, when Uka Uka, who happens to be the brother of Aku Aku, the mask that you've been, using to help you within the game, comes free. And it turns out that he was actually the boss of Cortex the entire time, and, basically tells Cortex that he's been a failure, and he hasn't done it right, and he's now got someone else to do the job for him.
And this time, the great Uka Uka will make sure that you do it right.
After that, Aku Aku explains what he was freaking out about earlier after he heard the sounds. Basically saying, like I said earlier, that it was his brother that got set free, and that he has a lot of evil in store. So Aku Aku shows Crash and Coco to the warp room and tells them, hey, go to the 5 different warp areas with 5 levels in it and the boss, and do the thing. Basically do the thing you did in Crash 2, is what he's asking. And without further ado, we can get a little more into the plot as well, which there isn't a ton of, because it's the Crash games. This time, instead of talking to Crash within the warp room itself, as you go to different levels, Cortex, Uka Uka, and the various different bosses will actually talk to as you're going through the warp thing. I think that's more, I guess, nostalgic in a way, because and better. Not even just nostalgia. If we went by that, I'd be absolutely wrong. But as just a way of like viewing the characters, it's actually really interesting, because in the second game you never actually really got to talk to the bosses. So it's cool to see, like, say Tiny Tiger or Dr. N Trophy come in and say, "Crash, I'm going to kick your ass," basically. And, with that, too, the bosses are also really good as well. I'm going to get into them in a second, but, first we need to finish up the story. So, story again, not too much to it. Basically, after you defeat N Trophy, there's like a rift in the time and everything gets messed up because of that. So, for the rest of the game, you now have to stop Cortex before he messes up time any more than he already has. And then, once you go up to face him, after you defeat him, he basically talks about, like, wanting to be on a beach with a woman with a nice big bag of ice. And that's how the game ends, basically. You either get the good ending, where it's, like, they're defeated in general, or you get the semi-good ending, but not so bad ending, where you get all the crystals, but you didn't get all the gems. So Uka Uka's like, you got all the crystals, but we still have the gems. Which basically signals to you that you need to get the gems and fight Cortex again. That I like in games, because I like that it gives you a reason to go back and do stuff, even though usually I'm not a big fan of it, and usually I'm not the kind of person to 100% a game. Crash is the rare example, so in that case I like it, basically. In the game, you have the same basic moveset as Crash 2. You have your spin, you have your slide jump, you have your belly slam. But this time you have extra moves that you didn't have before. Crash's moveset, you have the super bounce, which basically gives you a bigger wave as you bounce down. It actually lets you break certain crates that are next to you. You also have the double jump, which is easier to get on higher platforms like this one over here. Another one you have is the Wampazooka, which, it's a personal favorite of mine. I like it. And, with it, you can blow up shit, so very useful weapon if, you just you just want to blow up shit. That's literally it. There's not really a rhyme or reason to it like the other ones, but, if there's certain boxes you need to get if they're in the way, just pull this out and shoot it, basically. You also have the run, which was, mainly used for speedrunning after you beat the game. Last but not least, you also have your super spin, which, after like 2 games, finally upgrades your spin and gives you a super one. Which they actually reused in the Wrath of Cortex, so that tells you that it was a pretty solid move. You can also play as Coco. And with Coco, same basic moveset as Crash, yada yada, you've all heard the same thing. Yeah, so same basic Coco gameplay. Breaking boxes, you get the gem, you get the crystals throughout the levels as you do them. They haven't really done a ton different from the second one, aside from adding the super cool extra moves. The part where I think the game really shines, though, is in the environments. I like the time travel theme, because now you get to experience different eras in time. You get to go to the future, you get to go to medieval times, you can go to dinosaur, caveman times. It's really cool. I think there's even one where you're like in a World War II setting, and you're flying a plane to like stop mad bombers. As their exclusive levels, and that includes the original version of Crash 3, where she rides a jet ski, she rides Pura, which is basically Polar and the Hog. Basically the third incarnation of that, so not too much different in that way. Coco, yeah, she does all that, and that's pretty cool that they gave her her own role in certain stages. It's too bad that they didn't make it to where, like, those vehicle stages, along with the other ones in Crash 1 and 2, aren't playable as Crash, or, vice versa, as Coco and Crash's ones. But that's okay, because, the characters themselves are mainly cosmetic, so I'm not really too affected by that change. Because I like Coco as a character, too, and, it's cool to see her and Crash, getting their own exclusive levels within the game. So, yeah, I like that still. You also have your death route and your bonus rounds still. The colored gems are still there. And you get them through the same sort of means as the second one. You basically, get certain boxes, and there you go. Oh, the bosses. Let me tell you about them bosses, because they're really boss, I would say. You got Tiny, you have Dingle-Dial, best boss character in the whole series, in my opinion. You have Dr. N-Trophy, you have Engine, and then you end Cortex with the big shebang. So a very solid boss selection. And within those fights, there's, again, even more variety from the second one. So, it's a franchise where it continually improves. Tiny Tigers is in a medieval arena. Dingle-Dial is basically around ice blocks within an ice arena. Dr. N-Trophy involves time, so he'll shoot rays at you. He'll basically stop time, and certain platforms will open up for you to get him. And Engine is very interesting because it's the first boss fight in the series that involves Coco in any way. And, not just any, gameplay with Coco. It's Coco and her jet ship, which, basically you have to use to shoot him down in the mech suit. And, of course, the fifth one is Cortex, because, he's the final boss guy. But with that final boss, you actually get to see, the two masks, Aku Aku and Uka Uka, go at it against each other. Which was a really cool sight to see, because it was basically a double battle. You have, you going against Cortex, and, them going at it at the same exact time. And, as you go through, the different phases, different parts of the boss change. And that actually, happens starting with, N-Trophy. Dingle-Dial and, Dingle-Dial had some change. I'd say, the only one who didn't really have much change was Tiny Tiger. So Dingle-Dial, his attacks would start getting faster. N-Trophy would, start shooting more rays down. Engine has, a whole different, part of his mech that he turns into. And Cortex, for his boss, he doesn't really change, but, Aku Aku and Uka Uka, when they're fighting, their whole stance changes themselves. So, in that way, there's a big variety. And to end off this video, the music. Oh, the music in this game is really good. each soundtrack is set to like different eras of time. So you have like the Arabian theme, you have the future theme, you have like all the different like time period themes. And I don't know, like if there's anything I like a series doing, I like the time travel aspect because that's where you get the most variety because you have the power, you have the imagination to make whatever. And I think that's why Naughty Dog made the third Crash game based on that because, there's only so long where you can, go through jungles and snowy areas or run from boulders. In this one, you run from dinos and you do all that stuff. And the music highlights that really well. The graphics, too, just like the feel of the environment looks really beautiful, and you can basically feel the theme of that era. But now to get onto the music specifically, I will, as all of my reviews, I will show a few tracks and, let you guys get a little taste of what it has. Well, I guess that's the end of my Crash Bandicoot Warped review. I think it's a very solid game and just a very good way to end off a trilogy, in my opinion. And I guess also to end off this Warped review, it also ends off the Insane Trilogy reviews. Perhaps maybe I'll do Crash Bandicoot 4, or who knows, I might go back to the Jak games and do Jak X or something, since that's also on PS5. Who knows? Either way, though, I am looking forward to, seeing what I might do later. And hopefully you guys are too. I'd love to, share my love for certain games, or who knows, maybe I can give a negative review of a certain game if you guys want me to. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys have a good one, and I'm out. Peace.